Hey guys, this is Anime Ballsy, and today we're going to be doing what if DEKU had a hybrid quirk. Please like the video to help with the video's algorithm and subscribe. It's totally free and you can unsubscribe when you want. There's nothing much else I want to say in the intro, so without further ado, let's get into the video.
Winter time, all the time, ooh, yeah. Look at the way that I move, swag, disrespectful and I'm rude, okay. I had cocaine in the school.
In this what if, DEKU will have a perfect hybrid quirk between his dad Hisashi Midoriya's and his mum Inko Midoriya's quirk. This what if starts with a young Midoriya walking with his mum by a lake. He's talking about how much he can't wait to get his quirk and how he hopes it's even as cool as Bakugo's, and his mother assures him it will be. This is when a guy walks past absent-mindedly staring at his phone screen. He bumps into Inko, which pushes her into the lake. Izuku's nose releases immense heat when he breathes. He yells out and fire escapes his mouth, which hits the water and evaporates it. Inko is confused as she lands on dry, scalding hot ground. DEKU passes out for about 15 minutes and wakes up next to his mum in a hospital. His mum asks him how he is, and he replies that he's okay and he just has a headache. He looks up to see a quirk doctor, who's mumbling something about a hybrid quirk. The boy's emerald green eyes light up on the mention of the word quirk. You see, Mr. Midoriya, your quirk is a hybrid between the ability to lift objects and breathe fire. The intensity and heat of this flame is based on your adrenaline, and the weight you can lift is about 3 times however much you can lift without your quirk. The only drawback is overuse of the ability to levitate objects will give muscle strain and light headaches. Now Inko's eyes light up as well and meet her son's. She tells her son that he can be just like All Might, and with these words they both broke into tears and hugged each other before leaving the practice. Izuku goes to school the next day and flexes his quirk, ripping a piece of paper out of his notebook and then igniting it with his breath. The boys are excited until another boy comes up to DEKU saying that his quirk is even cooler than Bakugo's, which annoys the blonde hothead. Naturally, he wanted to say something, but he was silenced by all the class members other than his goons praising Izuku. A couple years later, we arrive at the day when Izuku's notebook would have been burned. In the time past, DEKU, who still picks up the nickname despite being top of the class, has started to train towards being a hero, occasionally with Bakugo, who now also has a notebook but skipped out on any heroes he didn't think were cool enough. He also decided not to pick up DEKU's nasty habit of mumbling to himself. Both boys leave school together with the intention of going to the gym. The sludge villain appears underneath the overpass, telling the young boys that he could use a strong young vessel, aiming to enter Izuku's body. Just as he is about to touch Izuku, he's suddenly thrown up into the overpass. DEKU holds the villain there who's crushing himself trying to resist DEKU's strength. DEKU then asks Bakugo if he wants any target practice, to which he says heck yeah. Baku then uses AP shot, which he discovered early because of his extra training. All Might, who had just watched this go down, asks the boys for their names.
Bakugo Katsuki.
And
My name is Izuku Midoriya.
well, hello young Bakugo and young Midoriya. And whilst I don't approve of public use of quirks, I recommend you to try to apply at UA because you're seriously impressive. If you choose to apply, I'll see you there. Bakugo replies saying of course he'd go there, he'll be the #1 hero one day. DEKU nudges the self-proclaimed next #1 and asks for an autograph for each of them, knowing Bakugo would be too proud to ask. They go to the gym and work out together. To give you an idea of their physical capability, now DEKU does a 10-mile run in 53:47 and Bakugo in the same time. Both boys can now deadlift about 150 kilos, but DEKU is a little bit stronger. Now we skip to the entrance exam. The blonde boy and the broccoli head arrive at UA on the morning of the entrance exam. DEKU is still caught by Uraraka before they enter the exam hall, where DEKU gets almost full marks on the written test unbeknownst to him. Bakugo also falls only a couple marks short. Now it comes to the physical exam, and the moment the gates are opened, Izuku rushes in at max speed along with Bakugo, failing to get ahead of only 1 or 2 people. Izuku and Bakugo are actually pretty in sync. DEKU, noticing Bakugo keeping up with him, starts to get serious. He lifts up all the 2-pointers he can find and simultaneously ignites them, causing a massive explosion which he calls Flaming Fiesta. In retaliation, Bakugo propels himself forward with his left hand whilst constantly releasing explosions with his right, blasting through robots and buildings. He called it, in true Bakugo fashion, Murder Lord's Trail. When the 0-pointer comes out, instead of running away, both boys run towards it, making it a competition to see who could beat the robot first. Izuku notices Uraraka as the girl that helped him earlier and lifts the rubble above her and throws it at the robot's sensors, blinding it. This is when Bakugo uses a stream of AP shot to slice the robot's head clean off. The head starts to fall straight onto the crowd below, but Izuku manages to divert it a little off its path. However, even the head of the zero pointer is much higher than his weight limit, invoking a migraine that has him rolling in pain. However, Recovery Girl heals him back to 100% almost immediately. This time, Izuku is less hurt and leaves much more of an impression on the rest of the Prospect students. Both Katsugo and Izuku receive their letters in less than a week. They open them together at the Bakugo residence. The explosive blonde opens his letter with a boom from All Might.
I am here!
He then goes on to excite the Bakugos, claiming that Bakugo passed with an 88 on the written exam and one of the top scores on the physical exam. The Bakugo family then go on to share a hug, with little cooperation from the new UA student. Deku then opens his letter and the same All Might appears once again. He then tells Midoriya that not only did he pass, but he had the highest combined score across the board and he welcomes him into UA. Just in case you guys wanted to know, Bakugo finished with 79 villain points and 28 rescue points. Meanwhile, Deku had finished with 83 villain points and 32 rescue points. We skip the holidays and arrive at the first day of UA. Outside of the 1A classroom, Izuku sees Uraraka and thanks her for helping him out. This is followed by Bakugo teasing Deku, calling the floaty girl his girlfriend. Deku then tells her not to mind him, and that he had the looks and manners of a chihuahua. The blonde fires off an explosion before heading inside, grunting something about how he'll be number one. Ochako lets off a chuckle, and then they both go inside. Aizawa enters the class, scolds Bakugo for using his quirk in the hallway, and tells them his philosophy of how orienteering is useless and he'd much rather do something useful. He shows them all their PE uniform and they go outside. They start with the ball throw, and in this case Izuku is told to throw it using his quirk. He makes sure that it's okay, and then he drops the ball almost to the floor before using his telekinesis to launch the ball far away. Shows restraint to avoid a headache and gets a score of 800.06 meters. He then admits that he was trying to get 800 meters on the dot. Aizawa then tells them that not everyone is equal and some people just don't make the cut, and to prove that, whoever gets the lowest score will be expelled. They then go to the 50 meter dash, where Baku gets 3.89 and Deku gets 4.2. The whole class is shocked at the versatility of both of their quirks. He gets 210 kilograms on the hand grip without even touching the dynameter. He clears the sandbox, and the class rankings end up with the top 5 order of Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, Bakugo, Todoroki, and then Ida. Consequently, Mineta comes last and is expelled. He uses his good-looking charm to get re-enrolled at UA. During the time before the battle trial arc, Midoriya and Bakugo make a common friend group of Ida, Kirishima, Ochako, Denki, Sero, Mina, and Chiro, but for story purposes we'll call this friend group the 1A All-Stars. The boys have a sparring match after school, which Bakugo dominates, pinning Deku to the ground, at which point Deku floats him up and threatens him with a fireball. Bakugo gives up, saying that he almost had him, to which Deku agreed. Bakugo, in his typical fashion, furiously demands a rematch, which is declined by a tired Deku. That one makes 295 fights since I got my quirk, and I think I'm up 152 to 143. Bakugo storms off grumpily, whilst Deku laughs and goes home to bed. The next day is the battle trial. Deku's hero costume now includes darker colours, and his utility belt goes diagonal around the torso. All Might explains the concept of heroes and villains, and then goes on to name the teams. As soon as it's announced that Deku and Uraraka are on the same team against Bakugo and Ida, Deku and Bakugo's eyes light up and they adopt a devilish grin. Bakugo even goes as far as to complain about the building, saying it's too small for him and Deku to fight in. Momo takes this as an opportunity to show her competency and reminds Bakugo that not every villain fight has an extravagant venue, and he needs to learn restraint. Bakugo has been humbled over time by having an equal, and whilst he still believes he is superior to Deku, he is smart enough to predict that Izuku could probably make a winning plan no matter who won in a one-on-one brawl between them. So Bakugo sucks up his pride and realises that best bet to win is to try a team strategy that allows them to fight together to hold off the duo until time runs out. When the hero team enters the building, Deku is prepared to fight along with Uraraka. He pulls down his mask so that it covers his face and throws his cape back in a Batman-esque pose. He starts jogging through the building with Uraraka slightly behind him. On the camera, 1A sees Ida rush out of the room until he gets a quarter way down the building. This is where he leaps into the air as high as he can before spin kicking the ground as hard as he could. He uses his momentum as he falls through the hole as well as his engines to release a more powerful kick than the last one. He continues this cycle, amassing debris behind him. He then releases his final most powerful kick right above the hero team, shattering the entire hallway on that floor. Due to the massive scale of this attack, the hero team had prepared for the worst and they managed to deal with the huge mass of debris by floating it and dispersing it throughout the hallway. Just as they started to wipe the sweat off their foreheads, Ida dashed out from behind one of the larger piles of rubble, and without hesitation he introduced his foot to Deku's head and vanished again just before Deku could react. Ida kept repeating this maneuver until he made the mistake of targeting Uraraka. As soon as Izuku had a break from the constant assault, he managed to catch Ida's leg. He then uses the body slam which he originally used on Bakugo on Ida here, followed by Ochako raining down rocks. At this point, Tenya resorts to calling for backup over the microphone, to which Bakugo grumbles that he's useless before rushing to the scene. As soon as Bakugo appears, Deku managed to isolate him, and the fight became 2 sets of 1v1s. Ida is dominating Uraraka, but when he's about to finish her, his legs lock up and he realizes the engines have overheated due to Bakugo's explosions and Deku's fire breath. This leads to Uraraka managing to apprehend him with the tape. She then begins to float herself through the holes that Ida had made, escaping Bakugo's attention. Bakugo had not noticed Uraraka's subtle exit because he had taken his earpiece out. Ida then resorted to shouting it out, but Bakugo couldn't get past Deku when he was actively trying to prevent him. This allowed the hero team to win with just a few seconds to spare. All the rest of the fights end up going the same way as in the anime. So that will conclude the first part of What If Deku Had a Hybrid Quirk. Tell me something you liked about the video or something that I should improve on for the next part in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.